Thank you, and please be seated.
Next, we'll have our invocation given by the Reverend John Hagman from the First Presbyterian Church, one of our new arrivals in town. I think he's been here 2 weeks. So, John, welcome.
Thank you. Friends, let's pray. God, we are grateful for a beautiful day that you've given us, and I am grateful for a beautiful new city to live in. God, would you grant this city council your wisdom and your discernment as they govern on our behalf? God, I'm grateful for concerned citizens who raise concerns, and I pray that you would lead us and guide us as decisions are made. God, thank you for this beautiful community that we get to live in, and continue to lead us and guide us. We give you our thanks and praise. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, John. Next is introduction of City Council. To my far right, Wendy Cato, City Council. Forrest Fleming, our Mayor Pro Tem. Louis Vina, our City Attorney. I'm Ronnie Thompson, your Mayor. Sally Sandy, our City Manager. Sid Simmons, City Council. Chris Hawkins, City Council. Kelly Russell, our Recording Secretary. And Becky Brinkley, who's our interpreter for the deaf. First order of business is a service film for Bennett Chapman. Is he here?
I don't see Bennett unless he snuck in, but I don't see him.
Okay, that'll be presented to him later. We have several public advocacy issues and strategies. Our first is a North Carolina DOT prioritization process. I think Stephen Sparks is with us. Yes, if he'll come forward, who is the engineer for District 13, Corridor Development Engineer.
It should come.
Stephen, welcome. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Good evening. How are y'all? It's a pleasure to meet you all. As I said, I'm Stephen Sparks. I'm the Corridor Development Engineer for Division 13, and I'm here to give a presentation about prioritization. And when we talk about prioritization, what does that mean? Well, many of you walk on our multi-use paths, sidewalks, utilize our highway system to get to and from your work and your leisure items. But how do we take good ideas, maybe the new multi-use path, maybe we want to extend one, maybe we want to widen a highway, maybe we want to put a new highway in a new location, maybe we want to add mass transit. How do we do that? It is through a process that we call prioritization, and that is what I'm here to talk about tonight. So there was a previous perception, if you'll look up on your screen, that it was a smoke-filled room and people talked about, well, you know, I'd like to do some funding for I-40, but yeah, I'll agree to that project on I-40, but let's also fund the new road near my property at the beach. That was the previous perception. It was an old equity formula that we had had for years and years and years. It was opaque. It was not transparent. It was not really data-driven. So in 2007, 2008, we came up with what would become the Strategic Transportation Investments Law. We started prioritization. We started using data, concrete data, to fund our projects. It just wasn't based on a whim, as we thought. And House Bill 817 was signed into law in June 2013. And this was Strategic Transportation Investments, and it was the most significant change in legislation since the 1989 Trust Fund. Created a prioritization work group to provide recommendations to NCDOT on weights and criteria. Well, oh shoot, let me get us moving forward again. So where do projects come from? How do we get projects? Well, some of you may have worked on a comprehensive transportation plan for your county. That's where it comes from, or a long-range transportation plan for the region. That is not the only place, but it is the most significant source we get our projects from. Yeah, that's the Madison County CTP. I decided to try to be a little neutral because you don't know where you're going to go and don't know who might take offense, and I couldn't think of anybody who would take offense to Madison County. If y'all have seen The Bridges of Madison County, it's also a good movie. So, But where do our projects come from? As I said, we start at long-range planning, maybe a CTP, and we get it funded into our transportation improvement program. It is that process we call prioritization. And I always like Schoolhouse Rock, and it's, you know, I'm just a bill. Well, any idea that you have for a transportation project, it's my job and Mr. Brian Horton's job with the Greater Hickory MPO to try to get that project funded and get it built. And I like that slide because I'm just a bill and a bill wants to become law. So we have our full transportation budget, so how is it broken up? So 40% of the funds are statewide mobility. And what I want you all to think of is your big projects, interstate, belt lines. Some U.S. highways are on that, but it's only on the U.S. highways that are on the National Highway System. Not all U.S. highways are on the National Highway System. Then the next 30% of funds go to what we call regional projects. When you're thinking about that, we're going to think about all U.S. highways that are not on the National Highway System and any NC routes. Also, any project that doesn't get funded at the state level can be funded here at the regional level. And the next one, which is division needs, these are all other projects that aren't NCUS or interstate routes that are now, we just fund them. We also fund regional transportation, local transportation, greenways, multi-use paths at this level. So when I talk about those weights and criteria, what are they? At the statewide mobility, you see congestion, benefit, cost, freight, safety, and economic competitiveness. And this is all, we take all of these criteria, which there's a lot of them. We keep data now that we could not do years ago because of, you know, well, your cell phone. Wherever you go, your cell phone logs where you're going, so we log a lot of that data. And we take that and we put it into a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet gives us a number that we compare to other projects throughout the state at the statewide level. And there is absolutely no local input. We just, whatever the score is however it gets funded. And it's, as I said, it's 100% of the score. At the regional level, these criteria now account for 70% of the score. So in other words, the data that we get make up to 70% of this project's score, and we're only scoring at the regional level with projects within a certain geographical region that I will go into later. The other 30% are just points that we get to assign based on North Carolina Division 13's weights and criteria and the Greater Hickory MPO's methodology. So you get down to the division needs. And again, same, different criteria, but we're all putting it into this spreadsheet. It makes up only 50% of the score now, and the remaining 50% is divided equally among the MPO and the division for which the project falls in. And I was talking about the roadmap. So when you look at a statewide project, obviously a project in Burke County is going to compete against all other counties across the state of North Carolina for a statewide project. When we talk about regions, we broke the state into 7 funding regions, which comprise 2 divisions. The Burke County falls into Region G, which is grouped in with Division, which is 13 and 14, which Burke County makes up. So if we talk about a regional project, it's only competing against projects within that funding region. It won't compete against any other projects in the state. And when I talked about a division project, Burke County is part of Division 13, so any project that we want to get funded only compete against the other 6 counties within Division 13. So that is how I wanted to break that up. Well, let me go back. Now, this is the schedule. It is a 2-year-long process. I know that slide is not very informative. If you look there on it, you can see. Right now, we are almost to the point of getting ready to enter new projects in for scoring. And it's a 2-year-long process. We will spend pretty much the balance of this year entering in projects, and then the central STIP unit will then score those at the end of the year. At the beginning of next year, we will start seeing those scores come out for statewide, regional, and division needs. And by the end of next year, 2020, we will have finished another round of prioritization. Brian and I get to do this about every 2 years. But it is a long process, so, I mean, you want to think about entering in projects that, you know, you're not really afraid to see walk through it. If you need something that needs to get done quickly, or maybe it's a safety issue, there are other funding mechanisms we have. So prioritization is not necessarily for a stop sign or guardrail alongside the road unless you want a big, long project of guardrail, which we could then score. But that is the spot process. That is the prioritization process in a nutshell. After we go through these 2 years, we will come out with another state transportation improvement program. It is a 10-year funding document that includes all of these projects, statewide, and regional, statewide, and division. It includes other ones, interstate maintenance, safety, and bridge. And it is about 50% of the overall state transportation budget. It isn't the full amount, but it is about 50% of it. And the Board of Transportation will vote on a final state transportation improvement program. Here, about June, they will vote on the current one that we've been programming for the last couple of years. And again, I'm Stephen Sparks. If you have any questions, this is my contact information. That completes my presentation. I'll entertain any questions.
Any members of City Council wish to ask Stephen any questions?
I
Wendy?
won't ask you any questions, but I've been serving for a little over a year, and I finally understand this process. It takes a while.
It takes a while. Brian and I will show spreadsheet after spreadsheet, and it's long. And
But it's a good process. It is a good process.
It is very good, and it has given us a wealth of projects that we hope that will benefit the state of North Carolina.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you all, and have a good evening.
Next, I'd like to call Philip Luckadoo forward, please, for a special announcement.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. Just wanted to bring in our new city engineer. After long ado, he is with us. Has been on the job. This is his second week. His name is Mario Sclerandis, and he comes to us from Newport News, Virginia. And he and his wife have a home here in Burke County, and so he is actually moving here, setting up his permanent residence here, and as far as I know, is enjoying it. He came back, so.
Mario, welcome. Would you like to say something?
No, sir. I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to all the changes I see in the Stantec study and the development of downtown Morganton, the city.
Well, thank you for joining our team. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. We're glad to have you.
Have an announcement. There is a planned power outage for April the 7th, 2019, beginning at midnight and lasting approximately 6 hours. The affected areas will be in the Industrial Boulevard area off Jamestown Road. Updates will be made via the city website and social media sites. We have several upcoming events at Comma. Tied Up in Knots, which is Thursday, April the 11th at 7:30. The Sound of Music, which is Tuesday, April 30th at 7:30. Our downtown farmers market is Saturday, April 27th on Beach Street from 8 to noon. Wednesday, May 1st, Green Street from noon to 4. And TGIF begins on Friday, May 3rd at 6 o'clock with extraordinaires and a car cruise-in. That is our public advocacy tonight. We have a consent agenda. Sally, I believe there's 5 items on that. If you'll cover that, please.
Sure. As the mayor indicated, there are 5 items. For those of you viewing at home, that includes 3 sets of minutes. The regular meeting, which was held on March 4th, a special meeting held on March 14th, and then the special workshop for the council held on February 22nd. All 3 sets of those minutes are included. Tax releases in the amount of $75.62, the 2019 downtown calendar of events, a budget amendment for comma showing the receipt of $250 that was donated in order to pay for chocolate candies that were distributed at the Peter Pan show, the Peter Pan on Ice show, and also an adoption of the municipal records retention schedule, and that is something that we do every time that the state puts out the retention schedule. So that's just to keep us in line with that. Would ask that you consider approving those in one motion unless somebody would like an item discussed separately.
Do any members of council wish to have an item removed from consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I did skip one item on the Municipal Power Agency number 1 update. Sally, do we have anything on that?
Yes, I can report that the rate committee for the agency has been working. They held a meeting last week, and they are working to get numbers ready to give to us by the late April, early May, so that we can use those in the budget process.
Okay. Our next item of business is a public hearing and consideration of a request to rezone property located at 102 West Morganton Heights Boulevard. The PIN is 17936173318 from general business and light industrial conditional use to high-intensity district HID. Public hearing is now open. I'll ask Philip Luckadoo to bring us up to date, please.
Bear with me just a moment. I'll get my presentation up. Let's see. Okay, so the subject property is, again, 102H West Morganton Heights Boulevard. You see a picture of it on the screen, and it is known as the old Henry Don plant, and you see it no longer. They were able to obtain permits to demolish it, so it has been removed. Let's see.
I got you, Philip.
You got help on the way, Philip.
Looks like we might need it.
Let's go here.
Oh, that was pretty.
Yeah.
What have you done?
It wasn't 102W.
Just turn it
Good
on.
Heights Boulevard.
Just thinking about it. There we go.
Okay.
Oh.
Now you see it on the screen.
That's great.
Okay, so a little bit about the rezoning request, and it was originally zoned heavy industrial and was rezoned to general business conditional use by way of this order 0918Z. Part of that plan was 144 residential units, and those were actually never created or never, there was no plan that was ever established for that. As you know, the conditional use process it was zone conditional use, but you also submitted a conditional use plan to get a conditional use permit. And there was no plan that was ever submitted for that. And then that plan, or the ordinance was amended by ordinance number 1233Z, which basically allowed them to retain the 218,000 square feet, but it took the residential portion out of that. And allowed for the 218,000 square feet to be used as an adaptive reuse. The current application is simply to rezone the property to one of our current zoning districts, which is HID, which, if you remember back to the work session, that's probably 90, 75, 80, 90% of our rezoning applications over the past 2 years have been from conditional use to your the current zoning districts. And here's the property. Let's see if I can. Well, here, this is the property here. I'm not sure if that's showing up, but in the gray you see conditional use. To the north you see HID zoning, which is beside to the right of the baseball field there.
And Philip, that's a railroad track running through there.
And that is a
correct?
railroad track
Okay.
running through, yes, sir. The GBCU, or General Business Conditional Use, is also to the right, which you know as Morganton Heights development that retains its designation as General Business Conditional Use. And the parcels to the west are LID, or Low Intensity Development. And then also to the north and west and east is MID, or Medium Intensity Development. The access is currently off the internal access system, which is off of Fleming Drive. And the water, currently there is water available, but with some cost to extend water to that development, or depending on what type of development that they were to occur there. Sewer is the same situation, depending on what type of development were to occur. There are lines nearby, but it may take, there may be some cost in making that available to the site. And this is a map that essentially shows the water. You see the water lines are in blue, and then the sewer lines are these denoted by the kind of the copper color with the manhole there. So you can see how it is, the lines are there, but whether or not it's available readily depends on the type of development that they were to choose to put there. The future land use map shows that property in the Mission 2030 plan is for general commercial and retail. Actually, planned destination commercial, and then across the street, across the railroad tracks rather, is commercial retail. Planned destination commercial talks about shopping, services, recreation, high-density residential, and no single-family use. Currently, as you know, if a project or if a property is zoned conditional use, and they can develop according to the plan, the specific plan that they have. If they do not develop according to that plan, then they have to rezone to a current zoning designation. Well, this, as we stated earlier, this property has no plan, so it's forced for any development to occur. It has to have the property rezoned to some current zoning designation. It does allow, high-intensity development does allow for the same uses to be accomplished as was in the general business conditional use, as well as others, all while conforming to the ordinance standards, or the new ordinance standards rather, and the rezoning meets the 2030 goals. The recommendation that comes to you from the Planning Commission was a unanimous decision to recommend rezoning the parcel, and 9 members were present, and again, all voted in favor.
Thank you, Philip. Would anyone in the audience like to speak during the public hearing? Please come forward, state your name and your address.
I'm Judy Latford. I live at 216 Camelot Drive. My aunt owned property. They've got the address of 0 West Fleming Drive because it's part of her property was on the left side of Fleming Drive. They created that road through my grandpa's property. So she sold the piece on the left before she died. She's been dead 2 years. And we still can't sell the property on the right because Duke Power has 12 power poles going down through the middle that Walmart and all them get power from. And there's a sewer, I found out there's a sewer culvert, a big old, I don't know what it's made of, but it's big, that the city has with people's sewer. So probably this new zoning they want to do, the sewer will come over there too. And we can't sell the property because sewer and the poles. So to me, if they want to do something and have sewer on it, they need to buy the property. My aunt died 2 years ago. We can't sell it, so we can't sell her estate because she owes the nursing home. So I'm against them rezoning it too because that'd make the taxes go up probably too. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Anyone else like to speak? Public hearing is now closed. What's the wish of council?
Before we go to a vote,
Okay.
would it not be easier to sell that property rezoned?
I'm sorry, which property are we talking about?
This property. This property.
In other words, Councilman Simmons, you're saying if we rezone it, would it make it more marketable?
Right. For this lady, I can understand the situation she's in. If she wants to sell it and pay a bill off, what can we do to make it more marketable for her?
Make her piece more marketable.
Yeah.
I'm not clear where her property is.
Philip, if you,
Philip,
Can you pull up
it
the area
for you.
map, Philip?
Pull a map back
Because
up.
yeah, maybe something like that. Can you,
Let me look at her.
yeah, why don't we do that? I think that,
This is a sewer, this is what she's talking about.
Yeah, she's talking about, so
The
the
other side of-
property was split,
She's talking about this
right?
sewer stuff. She's talking about this sewer stuff.
I reckon, I don't know.
is she talking about the property? Just
Either that or that.
Mhm, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Of course, that's,
something with the
She's talking about.
where the poles are.
no, that can't be where,
This is all
Okay.
Forest Hill over here.
yeah, that's Forest Hill School.
That's the school.
Yeah.
And then there's.
Okay. I believe her property is this piece of property.
Yeah.
On the other side of Fleming Drive.
Property?
Huh?
Does your property border the school property?
Oh,
Okay, on the opposite side of the bypass
Of
is
Fleming
what we're
Drive.
talking about.
What runs into it? You're going down
This right here.
Drive,
yeah,
and Walmart go down your left, it's gonna be on the
It's right
right.
okay.
I got you.
It's
Okay.
right here.
Yeah.
The poles, those, break the pit going down.
Oh, good. I don't believe this is gonna have any effect on that.
I was going to say, I mean, Philip, I don't know if you have an opinion, but it doesn't seem to me, it doesn't directly border and it's separated by a railroad and a highway.
One more slide, Philip.
Yeah.
I was looking to see what, this is her property where
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
the
That
sewer
sewer's
line
right there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
bisects the
sewer
property.
there.
Well, this would have no bearing on that piece of property, would it?
Well, but there's already, the sewer line's already there. We're not talking about having to expand that sewer, are we, Philip?
No, there's sewer,
The Gilmore building's gonna have that sewer, and when I was younger, when they first built Fleming Drive, they had a culvert under Fleming Drive that goes over to each property, and then that sewer is near that culvert down there.
so there's, on the property the subject property, there's a sewer line that runs along the
Creek.
western border.
On the creek, in the
Henry Don
back.
Creek.
And then there's another there's a sewer that comes from this property that we're talking about now, across Fleming,
Under the
and then
railroad.
comes here and follows in through Morganton Heights.
Right.
So there's sewer lines on the property, that's what I was saying. There are sewer lines there adjacent to it. Depending on what they build, how high it is and how much use they would have as to whether they would have to, depending on what they would have to pay in order to make it available, whether they had to upsize pipes or whether they had to pump it or whatever they had to do. But there are lines on there. But it does, I think sewer comes across this property up here.
Yeah.
And then also right here.
Sydney, does that answer your question?
Well, I guess. In other words, this zoning request has no bearing on this particular piece of property. Is that the way I'm
Don't think it
understanding?
does.
Only in the sense it's in the same part of town.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Philip, how big is this tract we're talking about? Do you know right offhand?
The subject property,
Correct?
I believe it is 18 acres.
Okay. Has any of it ever been designated as a brown field?
There have been brownfield designations, and we have been in contact with the State Department of Air Quality and with that office that deals with brownfields. I think that what their final determination has been relative to the development of that site is that there were some tanks on that site that I believe have to be removed, but that the majority of the, I guess what they call the dirty stuff, would have been on this property over here and was cleaned with that development. That's what I understand from those folks.
So it would have been on the adjacent property?
The Walmart.
That's what I
Walmart
understand.
property.
Yes, sir.
Any members have any other questions for Philip? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt an ordinance rezoning the property located at 102 West Morganton Heights Boulevard, PIN number 17936617318, from GB CU to HID.
I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Our next item of business is consideration of adoption of an amended development grant incentive guideline policy and zones. I'll call Sally to give us some direction.
Yes, so the development grant incentive, commonly that we refer to as DIG, is what we're talking about. And this is the follow-up to our discussion that we had at February 22nd City Council workshop, where we were looking at a program that basically was established in 2008 in the economic downturn, was adopted and put into place by the city and Burke County. We have issued 2 incentives under the old policy. Now we are looking at a very different economic climate, and that gave the opportunity for the city and the county to relook at this and to consider different guidelines. You'll recall that at the workshop we talked about having the maps and the zones. So this would only refer to the zones that are designated as dig zones where we think development can happen. They are ripe for that. Would ask that you consider changing those boundaries and eliminating the exit 100 zone that existed in the original program. And you do have maps in your booklet. And then expanding the hospitality corridor, which would expand to properties that would connect exit 105, property along exit 105 with exit 104 running along I-40. Those would be the 2 map changes. The other changes, and we have worked with the county staff and had several conversations with the county officials, and they too are willing to consider these amendments. The significant changes, adding language that clarifies that tax-exempt entities are not eligible. That was implied before because they don't pay taxes, so they won't. If they invest, there's no additional tax value created. The requirement that from the beginning, the developer applying for this work with city and county staff, that both entities would assign staff to work with them. In the past, it was set up that the city worked through and then the county came in later in the process. We really believe we ought to be in it from the beginning together. That the amended guidelines would clarify that for projects happening in the city's municipal service district, which is our downtown tax district, that any incentives that were qualifying related to that would be paid out of the additional municipal service district tax. And so that would be something that the city would bear 100% of that cost. The big change comes with the amounts and the levels with which you would reinvest that would qualify for you the incentive. We would recommend changing that to 2 levels. The first level would be for additional tax investment that qualifies between $4 million and $7.5 million. You could receive a 50% incentive relative to that additional tax value created. The last level would be any projects that create additional investment over $7.5 million, and again, that's tax value, that would be a 75% incentive. Heretofore, I think we had 3 levels before, so we condensed those, looking at 2, and establishing amounts we hope that really speak to transformative, to needle-moving projects.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to amend the DIG policy guidelines and the dig zone maps as discussed in the February 22nd, 2019 workshop with an effective date of April the 1st, 2019.
I have a motion, to have a second.
Second.
I would like to ask council to look in the book. You've got a downtown dig map, you've got a river district dig map, you've got a public reuse dig map, a hospitality dig map, a motor vehicle dig map. I'd like to ask staff if they, especially Ethan, if you would get that posted on the website so people at the city can see exactly the areas we're talking about. Any further,
I think
is it already posted?
they were on there. We took them off
Until we
until we
vote.
made the decision that the motor vehicle one would come off altogether because we would eliminate that. And then the hospitality corridor one would be amended to show the hashed part that you have
Okay.
here. And yes, we would intend to post those after we've adopted the new.
Great. Any further questions? Have a motion? Have a second? Any further questions? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And the county will be taking this up at a future meeting for them.
Okay. Next on our agenda is consideration of an agreement with North Carolina Department of Transportation for design and installation of utility lines in association with the North Carolina 181 widening project. Sally?
So we heard earlier how the state assigns points and prioritizes projects. So now we're talking about one of those projects. For several years, the widening of 181 has been considered in the state process. We are looking at from St. Mary's Church Road to Clay Street, and this is phase one of that project according to the DOT plans. There is a future phase that would take this all the way to Frank Wisnett Road, I believe. This project is currently, we're past public hearings, that all of those have been held. There is a design that has been done, and now they're in the right-of-way acquisition phase. This agreement is how the city and DOT would go forward based on the city's population, utility relocation, and that's water and sewer in that area. We will be responsible for paying 25% of that cost out of our funds. The DOT would pay the rest of that in the project, and we are estimating at this point the cost for both of those is $406,973.13. Obviously, as the project gets bid and those numbers are well defined, we would pay that at the end of the project. And so it will be budgeted in a future year because we'll try to get the right timing with DOT and schedule that when the project is set to end and coinciding with our fiscal year.
What's the wish of council?
I move to adopt a resolution approving the agreement between the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the City of Morganton for the relocation of water and sanitation sewer lines necessary to complete the North Carolina 181 widening project U5836.
I have a motion, to have a second.
Second.
Sally, one question I might have, any idea when that project could get started?
Right-of-way acquisition now, then they would go to bid, and Philip may have a definite time. We're probably not looking at this affecting us until 21, 22.
The DOT's website states that the let date is June 15th of '21.
Okay.
How long
It would-
would it take Philip to complete the project?
I don't know the answer to that.
It's a DOT
You're not going to draw him out on that one.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is consideration of establishing a filing fee for municipal election. I'll call on our city attorney to cover that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As people may have noticed, this is a city election year, and every year we are required, invited, however you want to look at it, as a city to establish the filing fees and inform the County Board of Elections of what those are. Filing period this year, of course, is not until July, but we always do this in the spring. Of course, we have 3 seats for election, mayor and council districts 1 and 2. for many years, we've used a $20 filing fee. It has to be at least $5, can't be more than 1% of annual salary. $20 fits fine in that, and that's what is suggested that we do again.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to set the filing fees for the mayoral seat and for each city council seat to be elected in 2019 at $20.
Have a motion to have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And we will notify the County Board of Elections of that fee.
Next on our agenda is consideration of approval of a memorandum of understanding with Stroop family as owners and first FHN Morganton LLC and second LS Hotels LLC developers for the development of certain property on South Sterling Street. Sally?
Yes, so this is an item that we have been working on for quite some time, and also an item, as you see, that has a lot of initials involved in it. So what we're talking about is the piece of property that is owned by the Stroop family, that is a large tract sitting just off South Sterling Street, fronting I-40, north of I-40, and we'll recognize it as where the former Abley's building is and the Zico's building, and then property going up the hill. So for quite some time, we have been working with the family and their representatives and several developers on how that property could get developed. In anticipation of that and in looking at a plan, in 2017, the city received a grant of a little more than $1.3 million to construct a road. And that road would start at the intersection, at the hospital intersection on South Sterling Street, and go through the property in a dedicated right-of-way up toward West Parker Road. And the idea is for that to connect those properties together, then allowing the remaining property on either side of the road to be developed. In order for us to comply with the requirements of that grant, and there is no city match to that grant, we have to have projects that create a certain number of jobs, and looking at 45 jobs. Neither a hotel nor a restaurant or other type retail located on that does that by itself, so you need both projects in order to comply with the requirements of the grant. So this is the kind of thing where the developers want the road to be built, the city wants the projects to happen because we need the jobs created so the federal government doesn't recapture those dollars. And so it's a chicken and an egg thing. And we have had I don't know how many hours of discussion relating to this. So what we are proposing to you tonight in a way to move forward, and I might also add that there's a time constraint in which that road needs to be constructed by, that we would use memorandums of understanding, and we have two before you tonight. The Stroops are a party to both of them. The city is a party to both of them. We have the FHN group, which is a party to one, and the LS group, which is a party to the second memorandum. And asking that you consider allowing us to go forward with that. That would then allow us to continue in the process to let bids ultimately and construct the road. In the MOUs, there are requirements as we meet milestones with that, then property pieces get closed on, and then those developments begin to occur, and then the jobs get created. So we are asking that you consider doing two different memorandums. We would move forward, and you'll see in there, the city is committing to doing everything related to the road. The city is also committing to designing and bidding out the water line improvements that are necessary, and they're different for each project, and then the sewer improvements that would be necessary. For the restaurant piece, it is only a water project that is necessary. For the hotel piece, it is water and sewer. The individual developers would be responsible for those utility costs to serve their projects. What did I leave out?
Covered it pretty well. Are we the chicken or are we the egg? That's the question I have.
Both, yeah.
Okay.
We may be both. We're not sure. But it's really, and that's part of the frustration, and that's part of the length of time. This is complicated. You're talking, first of all, about a piece of property that a family owns, not one person, different family members. You're talking about a federal grant that is going through the Department of Transportation. We are the first entity in the Unifor area to receive this federal grant. So this is the first time any governmental agency in the Unifor is going through this process with Department of Transportation. So we've added another layer of complication. We've got the federal government involved, we've got the state government involved, we've got us involved, we've got the family involved, and then we add 2 private developers and their projects, and it just takes a long time.
Okay. What's the wish?
Mr. Mayor, I hope we're the chicken because we've run long enough on this, and I'm so glad to see this come before the council.
What is the wish of council?
This is economic development, and it's a good thing.
Yep.
I move to approve a memorandum of understanding among the City of Morganton, the Stroop family, and FHN Morganton LLC.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I need another motion, please.
Move to approve a memorandum of understanding among the City of Morganton, the Stroop family, and LS Hotel LLC.
I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is consideration of appointments to boards and commission, which is the Downtown Parking Advisory Committee. Sally, you want to talk about the Downtown Parking Advisory Committee?
Yes, it is a committee that people are really clamoring to join. We have, the current members are Judy Willis, Rudy Bell, Keith Suttles, Ed Jones, Sharon Jablonski, the chief, and Philip Lookadoo serve as staff to that. And this is the advisory committee that considers parking requests in the downtown area, whether that's creating additional parking, changing time limits, creating handicap parking, all of those things. Have been contacted by Tommy Zane, and he is also a business owner in downtown and would like to volunteer to serve on that committee.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to appoint Tommy Sane to the Parking Subcommittee of the Main Street Advisory Board.
Have a
God
motion?
bless 'em.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
The only thing I'd like for them to consider is possibly be thinking about electric cars. It appears that we may need some electric car parking places in the future. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I do have one notice, vacancies that will exist on the following boards and commission. Under Human Relations Commission, the expiring terms of Buddy Armour, which is a school representative, Connie Davis and David Burleson, which is a nonprofit Burke United Christian Ministry slot, Gail Jones, and Tricia Evans Hunt. That's a 30-day notice. Anyone interested in serving on any boards and commission for the city of Morganton, please contact Kelly Russell at City Hall. We have one other item to come before the board. It was a handout. It's consideration of a resolution to receive a North Carolina Arts Council grant and consideration of a budget amendment for Main Street. Sally?
You all are aware that we have been working with the North Carolina Arts Council and are one of their entities in the state that are working toward a smart art grant. And in order to do this, there is a training, a technical assistance part, and you go to the training which will make us better able to get through the smart art program and better able to understand that. This is in Columbia, South Carolina. They are offering $1,000 as the grant to pay for the travel for us to go and attend and take the class, basically, for this. In order to do this, we need a resolution to allow us to receive the $1,000 and then a budget amendment showing that we will be reimbursed that by them.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to approve a resolution to receive a $1,000 technical assistant grant for the City of Morganton Main Street Department to participate in the Creative Placemaking Conference in 2019.
I have a motion to have a second. And a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I need another motion.
Motion to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $1,000 to appropriate the receipt of a technical assistance grant to City of Morganton Main Street Department to assist with participation in the Creative Placemaking Conference in 2019.
I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Anything else to come before City Council? Sally?
I do have one thing on the tail end of that. So placemaking is a big discussion in how you make your community into a place that people want to be. Live, work, play, do all the things that make it home and attractive to us as individuals, to our families, to businesses and the like. Just attended the National Main Street Conference, and there was an awful lot at that conference about placemaking and pretty big hitters talking about that, and a lot of economic sessions for downtowns and how important placemaking is. There was a session that they offered to civic leaders at that meeting that was held by Ed McMahon, who was the gentleman at our workshop in the video that Philip shared with us during the zoning. He was at the conference and he was the speaker for that. It was really amazing. But what I wanted to really say is that the reason that we were involved is the state of North Carolina was a presenter at the meeting at one of the sessions, and it was about art. And the state of North Carolina Department of Commerce invited Sharon Jablonski to be a presenter at that session and to get to take part in that at the National Main Street Conference. And it was really great, and we should be very proud.
Good. Thank you, Sally. Anything else to come before the board? If not, we are adjourned.